Secure some price for Wednesday, September 17th, 2025, and this program a presentation of Bet365. We are coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the Wall Center, the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogers, and Hidden Switches conducting things with interns Caleb Templeton and Braden Goodman. We have a big program planned for you today as Canucks management meets the media to kick off season 2025-26. And Jim Rutherford drops a franchise-defining question on us, Blake.
Yes, he does. Yeah, first of all, I saw some of the reaction of some of our colleagues about today's presser. I thought it was full of nuggets and illuminating, I thought, to the season ahead and beyond just a season ahead. But Jim Rutherford, maybe this is his hallmark. Like, so often in hockey, Matt, there are things that everybody's thinking, but nobody says.
Very true. Very true.
In this sport more than any other.
Oh, completely.
And they're so buttoned down, and that's the tall poppy thing that we always quote. Mm-hmm. Jim Rutherford just comes out and says it.
Yep. Plain speaking. Straight talk, Jimmy.
And we've said, like, it's a great quote. I question the logic of it sometimes because it lays cards on the table that don't necessarily need to be laid.
And well, more on this later, but more expensive not to. I wonder if that affected the price of centers this summer.
Yeah, maybe. But he's done it again now with the future of Quinn Hughes.
Yep. We will play you the clip in a moment, but our Redwoods Golf Course poll question today: should the Canucks go, quote, all in and mortgage the future in order to keep Quinn Hughes? You can vote yes, you can vote no. Do so at the Sekeres and Price X and YouTube channels.
The risk is not just you risk your future, of course. The risk is you do that and he still leaves.
And the phrase I think that we'll take from this press conference, much like more expensive not to at the end of season presser, much like everything has to go right. And Rutherford has been quite, every single time he speaks, seemingly there's a phrase or a sentence that Canuck Nation takes away from it, and it becomes a theme over the course of the following weeks, months. But Jim talked about how they could pay hefty prices to get that center iceman, and Quinn could still decide to leave and lose with his brothers. Caught in between. I answered yes on the poll question, Blake. I realize how ominous it sounds, mortgage the future. But it still remains the best possibility to building a contender quickly and keeping Quinn Hughes. And let's face it, everybody, it's not like the Vancouver Canucks have been owned and operated with a long-term plan of building year to year, step by step, and creating a contender that way, as we have seen some other clubs do. I'll go back to we live year by year, day by day. They manage season by season, year by year of the Benning era. That's how this team has been owned and operated. Those are the instructions from on high with this ownership group. Make the playoffs every single year. So it's not like you're throwing out a plan that called for step-by-step improvement. They've been trying to build a microwave contender for years now. And let's face it, I would rather take my best shot at keeping Quinn Hughes in the here and now at the cost of the future rather than not take my best shot at keeping Quinn Hughes and watch him leave. I voted yes on the poll.
Yeah. Again, maybe we misstepped in not laying it so bear on the poll question, but we'll do it here anyway. If you're just scrolling past it on Twitter, you might not think of the question is not if mortgaging the future keeps Quinn Hughes, should they do it? The answer to that question is absolutely yes. The problem here is, and the problem stated by Jim Rutherford, as you'll soon hear, is no one knows if that will keep Quinn Hughes.
The question is, should they do it irrespective of it cinching Quinn?
Right. Just in an effort to keep Quinn Hughes is really the best part here. And the answer to that is still yes.
Yeah.
Because you would absolutely regret not going through that effort.
I think so. I think so.
Again, this he has been gold for this team. He's on the Mount Rushmore of all-time Canucks if he's not the top Canuck of all time. Mm-hmm. And you would absolutely punch yourself, maybe worse, if you didn't do everything you can. And even if it means, and two other points here, even if it means in 6 years' time, you're fairly irrelevant, like you are really struggling.
Well, you may be anyways, right?
The interim 5 years would still be worth it. And secondly, Matt, I do think in today's escalating cap era right now, and just generally speaking, savvy managers can extricate themselves from these pickles of a barren closet. We have seen the odd team do it. It's not easy, but it's it's also not impossible. We have seen teams continually trade away picks and still manufacture a competitive team for a prolonged period of time. I think of the Bruins. We're seeing the Panthers now as well, and others have done it, where you make savvy moves, you can keep your head above water for 15 years trying to keep multiple windows alive. It is possible.
We were at the Redwoods yesterday for an on-course playing lesson with their pro, Craig. We'll be rolling some of that content out over the next few weeks, so be looking for that on our social channels. Here's what I will say. There were so many great little tips there that you get from a pro. Like, for example, first tee jitters, right? Maybe you haven't played in a few weeks. Maybe things went poorly the last time you played. Maybe you hit a couple of wonky drivers in the warm-up, and you're taking all those nerves, all those thoughts, and you know how those bad thoughts can affect you on the golf course. You're bringing all that to the first tee. Let's say the group behind you is there. They got people on the patio, so you got an audience, a gallery. You're a little nervous. What did Craig tell us? He said, hey, take an extra second or two, reflect on your target, visualize where you want to hit the ball, where you want it to land, where you want it to finish. We so often forget as golfers just simple, fundamental things like that.
I'm so
guilty. A few seconds of concentration on the target can help cure a lot of those things.
I'm so guilty at looking at the width of a fairway and going anywhere in
there.
Yeah,
exactly. No. Here's the thing. Those junior golf camps we were telling you about at the Redwoods, they are all sold out. Huge demand to get to that course, get to that practice facility, and work with Craig. So we'll be telling you more about junior golf camps and winter lessons that are coming up. For now, the private and semi-private junior lessons are available, and they are flexible to your schedule. Go to redwoods-golf.com/instruction and book yours today. Our top story brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Caught in between. Canucks president of hockey operations, Jim Rutherford, lays it bare, as he always does, saying the Canucks face an unsettling situation of going all in and still losing Quinn Hughes. Here's Rutherford from this morning at Rogers Arena.
Always important to win, and especially in this situation. We're a little bit caught in between when how far do you go to do that? Which means how many draft picks do you want to trade and how many of the future do you want to trade? Because you could do that and he could make a decision to go somewhere else non-related to how the team does. Or you just go all in and see where it goes. I mean, it's what I did when I managed in Pittsburgh. We knew we had a chance to win cups, and that was the direction from ownership, and that's what we did. So we're always going to try to improve the team and have a better team. But it gets the first thing that Patrik hears when he calls somebody about a player is, okay, no problem. We want first round pick or a couple of first round picks or your top prospects and things like that. And that becomes the juggling act. As you do that, your team's a lot better, your team has success, and he may, for different reasons, probably reasons that we would all consider doing. It's not just him. He may consider that he would prefer to be somewhere different geographically, for example. I mean, the biggest topic we all talk about wants to play with his brothers. I mean, I think everybody knows that by now, right? But doesn't mean it has to happen 2 years from now or 1 year from now. It could happen at the end of their careers. So they say they played with each other. There's so many things. I mean, you can spin this thing 100 different ways, and there's only one guy that's going to make that decision, and he'll make it for whatever reason. But we do have a responsibility, Quinn Hughes or not, to put the best team on the ice we can. And that's what Patrik has to work on. He has to continue to work on that through the first half of the season to improve our team.
And he's 100% right on all of that. And they do have a responsibility. But I would add it's an added and more urgent responsibility because of the Quinn Hughes future element on this. And he did
greater risks
go
involved.
Oh, for sure. And he did go all in and mortgage the future. And we're seeing that now in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But they won 2 cups. Now, the team he had 2 franchise centermen. It had a top pair defenseman in Letang. It had a first overall franchise goaltender in Marc-Andre Fleury. This team is not quite that, especially at center ice. We know that. Better number 1 defenseman. I think you could argue as good in goal, although both Marc-Andre Fleury and Matt Murray were terrific in those.
But that's where you go all in, is to get that second line center.
That's it.
That's where you go all in.
That's it. And look, I don't envy them. It is going to be quite difficult. But I think we already know Rutherford's answer. I think Rutherford told us his answer in April when he said, be more expensive not to.
Yeah.
What he meant by that was, if we don't go out and get that center and build a contending team this year, we're basically paving the way for Quinn Hughes to leave or tell us, I want to play with my brothers. I'm not willing to sign an extension next summer. So,
and you can hear it in his
I
tone
think
of
we
voice
know
too,
Rutherford's answer. It's going to be interesting to see what Francesco's answer is. Going to be interested to see how Allvin stick handles all this, because he is still running point. They did address why they didn't get the center this offseason. We talked about this yesterday. It was one of the big questions today. It comes down basically to not many being available and not wanting to overpay. Here's Patrik Allvin.
I think you all were aware of there wasn't much of a market here in terms of transactions this summer. The new CBA is taking place here, and you see a lot of players extending with their current team. That being said, I think our analytics staff or scouting staff have done a really good job identifying potential players that might come available, talking to Adam how we want to play and what type of players he's looking for to fit into the system here. So there's been a lot of conversations, but unfortunately up to this point, not much have transparent into deals.
There's not a lot available, so I can't imagine how many conversations they've had. Not a lot of publicly available players. Can you call on players that aren't publicly rumored and reported? Yes, you can, but I think those are extreme prices then, right? So now they said the prices were just too sky high. Their words, sky high. as per our poll question, Matt, sometimes you are just going to have to pay the sky high price
Right.
in order to satisfy the project at hand, which is hopefully keep Quinn Hughes.
Yep.
So the question is, at what point do they just say, all right, sky high it is. You can have
Well,
this.
I was going to ask you, Blake, because you over the last few days have stated a case of so long as Luke Hughes is unsigned in New Jersey. And very interesting comments from Jack Hughes. He seems quite brazen on this, but he was talking yesterday about how hopefully Luke gets signed and is able to run power play one like last year.
He's looking for commission
Yeah.
on the contract.
Well, no, but he talked about how, Luke was on power play one last year. I know Hamilton was hurt, Dougie Hamilton, but, hopefully Luke gets signed and gets right on to power play one. He seemed to be suggesting there's some urgency that, Luke better get signed for training camp and preseason so that he has that number one power play job. You've laid out the case, overpay for Luke Hughes.
Like stupidly overpay.
Does the same logic apply, Blake, for a top two center? Like a stupid overpay just to get that top two center to take your best crack? Or does the Hughes name matter more in your pay a stupid price if you need to?
Well, the name matters more, and also you're dealing from a position of strength theoretically in that you do have defensemen that would be part of that package going back the other, because you'd want to New Jersey would want to replace the loss, and the Canucks theoretically have players like that. Like DPD's not at Luke Hughes' level now, but DPD can play for that team now. And then there'd be plus on top of that, obviously. So I think Luke Hughes is an easier trade in that regard, but I do think that's a steeper overpay to some degree. Now, if you're going to overpay for a second-line center, it's got to be a certified second-line center. Again, overpaying for Pavel Zacha, I don't know if that's what I'm talking about. Like, go find a true second-line center and stupidly overpay. I mean it. 3 first-round picks. The next 3 years, stupid. But it has to be certified. It has to be an actual guy, not Pavel Zacha.
Looking forward to being at Yellow Dog and Neighborhood this week in Penticton.
Can't wait to sample the menu at Yellow Dog. I know the menu at Neighborhood. It's going to be a Sophie's choice, although we've got a couple meals. So one at one place, one at another. Can probably scratch both of the itches, of course. Looking forward to seeing the friendly staff. It is a great place to go. And, of course, the best of the beers. And they've got a new beer release, the Play Deader Double West Coast IPA. I think I'm going to save this till the end of the evening, near bed.
Finisher.
Yeah. The double IPA has the tropical fruit, the citrus, the hint of pine, smooth bitterness at the end, clean, dry finish, dangerously drinkable. Go check it out. The Play Deader Double West Coast IPA from Yellow Dog.
Canucks Brass also had plenty to say about Elias Pettersson. Head coach Adam Foote noted that he asked Elias, what did he say, on a Wednesday or on a Saturday, to make a trip from Sweden to Detroit
3 days later
to meet with him, Thatcher Demko, Quinn Hughes. They chose Detroit because that's where Thatcher Demko's wife is. That's where he spends some of his off-season, or that's where his wife's from, I should say. And that, of course, is where the Hughes family has made a base. So the Detroit Summit was convened. They had some meetings. They played some golf. Apparently, Demko still owes some money from his lack of golf proficiency.
Maybe it's just the
I do wonder if the NHL is going to call Adam Foote and say, "Yeah, coach, we don't talk about gambling."
Just a green fee. He meant he owes them for the green fee.
Right, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it was Rutherford who stole the show on this topic. Natch. He steals the show on all these topics when asked, saying he is confident Elias put in the work this summer. Here's Jim.
But I heard, I didn't go to visit him in Sweden, and I have seen him a few times since he's back, and I know he put the work in. And I think we also know he didn't a year ago. And success comes with preparation, and I believe all of our players and especially Petey, has worked very hard this summer. So now the test starts tomorrow. That's why we have camp, why we play the games. But I do believe he's committed to be the player that we all expect him to be. And we're all hoping that starts right from game one.
And let's also all hope that that's the last negative word from Canucks management
They
on
can't help
Pettersson.
themselves.
I mean, they've beat him up a fair bit.
In addition to that,
maybe Jim should just leave the past in the past at this point.
multiple references throughout this press conference, too.
To the JT Miller.
The trade we didn't want to make.
Didn't want to make. Yeah, I know. He's not afraid.
Oh, my gosh.
Time to support him, as Adam Foote laid out in his introductory press conference this summer. And here's the other thing. Coach allowed that PD aced the skating test.
With the extra pounds.
Yeah.
Two references to that.
That's right. He said, this was a test that was designed to see who put the work in this summer. It would have revealed if anybody had a lazy summer. And he said PD's numbers were great. So that's encouraging as well. And while there was plenty in this presser, so much that we're going to get to some of it tomorrow, we did get Adam Foote on his style of play. And, of course, that had been a big mystery because, number one, this is a first-time NHL head coach. You do not have a record or a resume to go on in that regard. And because he was non-committal in that introductory meeting with Vancouver upon his hiring. Well, it sounds very much like Adam Foote came prepared to answer that question. And Blake, I thought this was an excellent answer. I was quite encouraged to hear this from Foote. Here's how he plans to play, and the upshot here, the Canucks will be a chameleon. They will not be rooted into a singular style of play and identity like they were under former head coach Rick Talk, Foote's mentor. Here's Coach.
I want to be able to adapt against our opponents. I can't sit here and say we're going to be a rush team or a dump and chase team. We're going to be a team that adapts to our opponents, make them feel uncomfortable. So there's going to be nights where we're going to have to defend maybe a little bit longer, depending, or be above some speed through the neutral zone. But we're going to play consistent hockey as far as a unit of 5, our goaltending unit of 6. We're going to play as a team. And I will have the buy-in with this group to be able to adapt. Been lucky to play in some good teams, with Canada and Colorado over the years, playing with some great players. And when those great players are ready to win, they adapt and play the shift that's needed at that time. Whether you have to defend that shift, it's been a long shift in your end. You got to get a quick change and not go on the offense all the time. Things like that. For an example, we're going to be a team that, if I'm defending against a heavier player, I got to make sure 50% of my body's ahead of him at all times, right? If I'm going against speed, Burry's on the far blue line, I got to be aware of him so he doesn't beat us. And so we'll adapt as a group from who our opponent we play. We will have our systems in check. But the thing that I want to focus on most probably is numbers. We're a great defending team, but I think we can get back quicker with numbers where we can strike, say, 2 versus 3 in our end, or 2 versus 4. We can get better at striking faster. It almost feels where you played great hockey teams and you run into your game 7s, the big games. Good teams make you feel like they've got an extra player on the ice. And that's just working away from the puck, and I call it numbers. We're going to try to do that in most zones, but coming into our zone, like I said, we're a great defending team, but if we can strike when we have the numbers and have the confidence that if we're going to strike 3 guys versus their 2, the other 2 guys won't get beat back to our end, and they'll have us covered, So we're going to focus on that. But again, we're going to adapt. You have to be an adaptive team. We're going to play different styles of teams. We're going to have heavy teams. We're going to have fast teams. We're going to have teams that are going to be a 1-0 game with their structure. So we're not going to get caught in playing one way. That's not the way I want to approach that.
Wow.
Very unique answer. You're not going to hear a lot of people in sports say,
but here's the thing.
He's taking away the cliche. We're just going to play our game.
But here's the thing. You will hear the best coaches say that. You will hear the brightest coaches say that. You will hear the coaches who understand it is not enough to lay out a style of play and identity and say, we're going to be that and only that. We've talked about this for a long time on this program, that the essence of coaching isn't, I have a way that the game should be played. I'm going to indoctrinate that style within the team. That's going to become our identity, and we're going to live and die by that style.
Well, it's not a truthful answer. Every coach, I think, wants adaptation, but few lay it out like that.
Here's what's, first of all, Foote foreshadowed this in his introductory presser. He talked about how, as a defensive defenseman, he had to play a different way one night against Teemu Selanne versus a Brett Hull versus a Paul Kariya versus all the best offensive players that he had to match up against. Bill Belichick, who I would argue is the most successful head coach in the Big Four sports leagues this century, has long talked about this. We're not a passing team. We're not a running team. If there's a defense that we think we can run on, we are going to run the football a ton. If there's a defense we think Tom Brady can exploit through the air, we're going to throw the – we're not a three-man front. We're not a four-man front on defense. We are for exploiting our opponent's weaknesses week to week and covering off their strengths.
Well, it's funny.
That's what we're doing in terms of game planning, thinking the game, planning, and instilling that in the players in terms of what they have to do on each given night.
It's funny you bring up football because, again, in hockey, it's the most spontaneous of the sports. It's the most fluid game that there is. So
it's the most luck reliant, right? Yeah. Like the spontaneous bounces of a frozen rubber
So you
disc.
can't have a firm system, X's and O's, that you always play. It's situational. There's 1,000 different situations in hockey. What I did think about...
And I think it got a little too predictable with Tocchet last year, Blake. I think they were a little too rooted in a certain style of play. And I think teams knew that and took advantage of it.
Foote did talk about, hey, he basically was admitting, we're not the most skilled team. We're not going to own the puck all the time. And it reminded me, in my increased, in the last decade, exposure to soccer, of a soccer team. In soccer, you hear about possession teams because possession is a big stat, and you can argue about the importance all you want and people do argue about the importance of possession in soccer because there is a lot of teams that feast and eat and win getting 40% possession in a hockey game. But they are built to counter. And he sort of sounded like a coach, a soccer coach of a counter team that was like, you can go do your thing, but we need to be able to be a team and then pounce when given the opportunity. And I've never really heard it laid out like that, but it sounds like that's sort of what they have in mind.
I so like that answer, and I so understand what Foote is getting at. And it also tells me that he's probably done some reading this summer in terms of coaching and sought out some professional development heading into his first NHL head coaching.
I think
and that gives me that's something that would give me comfort as a Canucks fan or player.
You still do need to clear a bar of skill level, and the question is going to be whether or not up front, the Canucks clear that minimum bar of skill level.
Yep. But here's the thing, getting back, and he talked about this as well, to playing that 5-6-man defensive unit that we saw a couple of years ago with Tocchet, which really had not been a part of the Canucks program for years. If you can get back to being that, as we have talked about all summer, this team should be baselined. With those 2 goaltenders and those 6 defensemen, you should win your fair share, collect your fair share of points by being that team again.
Well, baselined in goals against, for sure. The question is goals for.
Right. And there may well be some nights, Blake, where they do everything perfectly or close to perfectly.
And lose 2-1. Yeah.
Exactly. Because they don't yet have the firepower. Rutherford opened this press con, and first of all, we were wondering if Jim was going to be a part of this. He has in the past, and then in other years he has skipped the season opening presser. Said he was happy to close the book on last year, although, as you say, brought back the JT Miller trade several times. He said he was pumped up about Foote and his assistance. He really endorsed this coaching staff, saying excited and impressed. He talked about how Adam Foote, the elephant in the room, doesn't have a whole lot of NHL coaching experience. We talked about it the day he was hired. There were 31 other teams that would not have hired Adam Foote as a head coach. The Canucks were the only one. But he likened him and his pathway to Rod Brind'Amour, who he hired in Carolina.
Yeah.
He then went on to talk about he believes these players are very prepared for training camp and the season. Adam Foote got the first question and talked about how he went to his players, his leadership group, and asked them about a skate test. And first of all, I can't believe how much of a boogeyman the skate test has become for NHLers, huh? Like the way Foote talked about it, like just the anxiousness of hockey players in the summer, like looking forward to the skate test.
Well,
like guys like the Twins, I don't think sweated the skate test very much. Anyways,
they laid it out that they didn't want to get hurt during the skate test and have it color training camp.
Yeah, and to me, that's kind of, you can get hurt doing so much, right? Like, to me, that's something that players say because they don't want to do the skate test. Oh, coach, we're worried about getting hurt, pulling a hamstring.
Well, no, they're still doing it. They just did it early. That's all.
So they asked to do it earlier, and the head coach said, great, let's do it earlier. And he says they were prepared for it, and they hit their marks. And he said a couple of players came in bigger and stronger, and he said
one of those has to be PD, you'd have to think?
For sure. Some of the numbers went up in the test. You would have to think one of those is PD, the way they talked about his preparation. So Foote was encouraged by that to start. Rutherford talked about how he likes a lot of the things that are in place. And he was asked about everything going right. And he said, with the parity of this league, most teams are in that boat these days. Allvin detailed which players will be unavailable here at the start of camp. Jet Wu, long-standing Canucks minor league defenseman, made some strides last year too. He had surgery in early August. Allvin said month to month, thinking November there. Ty Mueller, who had such a marvelous first professional campaign last year, Calder Cup champion. He was a big reason why the Abbotsford Canucks were able to go on the playoff run they did. Said he's hurt. He hopes, Allvin said Mueller's hurt. He hopes he starts skating this week. And then this new Latvian they brought in, Ravinskis, hernia surgery, European free agent. He's been rehabbing in Vancouver for a month now, and Allvin thought he would be.
Had him at the Worlds.
Would be close.
Called a bunch of games for him at the Worlds, and he's a fun player. It's a good project. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Again, there was plenty in this. We're going to get to it over the next couple of days. Jim was also asked by Farhan Lalji. We're not going to play this clip. It was very brief, and that is very rare for Jim Rutherford. Farhan asked him about the brothers comment and how Quinn said last week Jim's a smart guy and basically suggested it was like a calculation, a method to the madness, soften the blow should it come to pass. And Rutherford responded flat, really shot down the question. Felt bad for Farhan. Said he didn't tell people anything they didn't already know. And then was asked if it was intentional and said no.
I think Jim thought there was something else to the question, that maybe like there was a gotcha thing there.
Yeah, it sounded that way.
And I think he just kind of misunderstood the pretext.
I think that, and also I think he was wondering whether the question asked him, did you unnecessarily upset Quinn Hughes and put this in his kitchen?
That was his read of the question.
When it didn't need to be said from on high of your perch.
Which at the time was a fair read of that. I think
it's still a fair read of that.
Yeah, but that wasn't.
I don't think Quinn
Farhan's
I don't think Quinn, and frankly, I'm not even sure Jack would be speaking about it in the terms that they've been speaking about it over the last week or so. If not for, I think Jim basically gave them leash to go and talk as they've been talking. The inherent
problem with the question from Farhan, no criticism of Farhan, the inherent problem with it is if there is some chess in this game of checkers, he's not going to divulge it now. The whole point would be that there would be a game plan that would, like, if that was setting something in motion, he's not going to divulge yet. The plan hasn't come to fruition yet. So I think even if he was, he'd keep those cards close.
Jim was asked about basically running it back with a different head coach and a different winger and Evander Kane, and he said he doesn't believe they've come back with the same group. He said, I don't disagree with the premise of the question in terms of there's a lot of players who are returning, but he said he looked at it with a broader lens in terms of what happened over the course of last season, basically the personnel changes over the last 12 months.
Yes, and we've talked about that.
Yep.
This is a different training camp group.
And he's right.
Not a different April group, but a different training camp group.
Yep.
For sure.
And he's right. I mean, this group didn't get a long run with the likes of Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor and Philip Hedl and others, right? Mm-hmm. That was a trade deadline on thing, basically a quarter, not even of the season. And he also noted that there are a lot of good young players knocking on the door that could further supplement the talent level and the production and the success of.
Yeah, Ratu had the run of games at the end of the season, but he wasn't a factor at the start of the year. And it looks like he's going to be a center here.
I love the line from Foote about it's up to the players to keep each other accountable. Otherwise, I've got to, and that means getting on the line. So basically, if you don't keep each other accountable, I'm going to bag skate you. But this is also, I'll use the term new school coaching, Blake. And I will again draw a Bill Belichick Patriots dynasty comparison, because way back when they won their Super Bowl, they had a defensive captain, Lawyer Malloy, safety from UW, Tom Brady's best friend on the team. They cut him in training camp, and the players went crazy. How dare you? This is our guy, blah, 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 blah. They lost the first couple of games of the season. They were all upset with the coaches and management. And ultimately, it came to a full-on team meeting where basically the players decided, look, like we have to take ownership of the process. We have to be accountable to each other. If we have coaches who are yelling at us to do this, do that, like if the coaches are the enforcement, we're not going to be everything we can be, because that means people aren't doing it on their own volition. So Foote hearkening that sort of accountability, I thought was also a very positive sign for a first-time NHL head coach.
Well, I think it also reflects, Matt, like no one should be comfortable on this team.
No.
Like this team is not I mean, you can be contractually comfortable, but that's a lot different than your own happiness day to day and you feeling like you're getting your ice time appropriately doled out to you and all that stuff. Like, I don't think anybody should be like, oh, I'll be on first power play unit. I know that. Like, really? Like, is it written in stone that Besser or DeBrusk are emphatic? Like, those are the kinds of players that I don't think Adam Foote is going to have any trouble dropping down to PP2 if he's not seeing the appropriate bottom line.
I think you're right.
I think players are going to have to earn their spot in this lineup, not on this lineup, because I think these players, guys like Besser, DeBrusk, and others are playing nightly. But how much they play nightly and where they play nightly is going to be up for grabs to some degree.
Yeah. Allvin was asked about, is there a danger of waiting too long to get that center? And there absolutely is. He basically kicked that can down the road and said, wow, we're open for business. It's about the availability of players. And that's a fine answer for right now. But you get on the ice and you start losing games because you're not good enough at center, the urgency only cranks up, the price only cranks up. So he can answer that question now that way now. That's going to be a more difficult question to answer and get you closer to gross overpayment, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
If that becomes the reason why the Canucks are being held back. And then the perfunctory practice facility question. Shout out Rob Williams. He must have drawn the short straw.
Are you kidding me? That's
Rutherford said they're closer. There are legitimate options now. They're in conversations, but he said anything beyond that, you're going to laugh at me. So he's still taking the self-deprecating humor there on the practice facility based on his previous comments the last couple of years.
But reading between the lines,
he should be able to get it done at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
I still have my doubts that ownership wants to cut the check because I think they're closer to the exit than they are to the entrance on this thing. And I think if there's a world where the team is for sale, and of course they are looking for an investor to replace youngest brother Paolo, I would get the sense they probably want the new guy to pay for this.
He absolutely regrets being so bold on this a couple of years back.
Yep.
But
I think he quite knew his owner.
But his inability to be more convincing of it today, and just the way that he was talking, if I'm going to give an over/under, it's 3.5 years before a player's skate hits the ice. Like, to me, it's like.
Well, one of the things I heard is that they went to the players and asked them about this, and the players were like, "No, we don't need a practice facility."
That goes against everything we've heard.
Well, but my sense is because the players fear a practice facility being built somewhere out there in the Lower Mainland that is less convenient for them than Rogers Arena or UBC. That would be my guess.
Well, then the UBC option is the one that should be most explored if they're happy enough with that, because that is the easiest one to make happen. It's just they got to play ball with UBC. And UBC, unlike a lot of partners that the Aquilinis want to partner up with, guess what? UBC is not desperate.
No. Yeah.
like they're doing okay out there.
UBC has some bank.
They don't need you at all.
UBC's sitting on some prime real estate, to say the least.
Literally, figuratively, they are doing just fine without you. So you're going to have to play ball with them.
Right. Like, there might be an itty-bitty community center out there that goes, oh, my God, the branding potential of the Vancouver Canucks on our facility, what this could do for our neighborhood, for our building. UBC ain't that guy.
That's not that guy. No.
They're like, oh, wait a second, you want us to pay for it? No, we're not paying for it. We may build libraries. We may be building all sorts of things around campus.
Yeah. We can use that space for other stuff.
Building you a practice facility so that you get to slap it, and no, that's not worth it for us. We don't need that kind of marketing.
No.
We've got nearly 60,000 students full and part-time. We're a leading institution the world over. We're going to be okay.
We've got overseas billionaires offering us to build that stuff on the reg.
Exactly. We have billionaires right around the corner on the endowments lands.
Yes.
I mean, we don't, So we'll see where that goes. Canucks have picked up the option on Manny Malhotra's contract for the 26-27 season. Look, no-brainer and procedural.
Yeah.
Based on the Calder Cup victory. Of course, you want to keep Manny in the fold. Also means they have him under club control here if a move needs to be made with Adam Foote this year or next. Although, typically these AHL coaching contracts have outs if head coaching jobs become available. Like some of them even have outs for NHL assistant coaching jobs. So
he would definitely be able to elevate.
I would have to think that some of those apply for Manny.
Yeah.
Don't know full well, but you're not going to deny him being an NHL head coach. Whether you could deny him being an NHL assistant if he feels like, okay, there's no pathway to the head coach.
But he had that already.
But I know.
Yeah.
But
I think
things change.
I think he would be a candidate he would be on any short list as soon as there's a vacancy. I'm not saying he's getting the next vacancy, but I'm saying he would be on the short list, I would think, for most vacancies. So he's going to have that.
The other thing we'll say is one of the other sort of young up-and-coming coaches, Mitch Love of the Washington Capitals,
Mired.
Cornell, BC.
Doesn't look good.
With him on leave and an investigation, one of the chief competitors to be that new young head, the new Spencer Carberry, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's getting an NHL head coach.
The Canucks may have dodged a bullet there if they were ever considering him.
Yeah. Let's get to today's menu, brought to you by Greta. A fantastic spot to catch all the games, home and away. To pregame or postgame, you were mere steps from the arena and the stadium. It's an even better spot if you need a venue for an upcoming event, end of season party, family reunion, office get together, team building event, whatever you are organizing. Let us suggest Greta. It's got the fantastic menu of street food. The tacos are amazing, plus the arcade. It encircles the bar. You will have so much fun. There will be so many great photos and videos taken, content for days as you play around in the Greta arcade. 50 West Cordova, bottomless wings for $25. To book your event, get to gretabar.com. Greta, let the games begin. We'll talk to Frank Curado here, former Vancouver Canuck. We'll talk to him about a couple of these young players looking to make a mark in training camp and in preseason, make the Vancouver Canucks, as well as the big dramas that are going on around the NHL. McDavid unwilling to sign, Kaprizov unwilling to sign, Hughes' future, Sidney Crosby and the potential for a trade. Hit some of those topics as well today with Jeff Merrick. Good to have Jeff back on the program. Jeff has an Easter egg for us today.
Almost like Frank Saravelli was listening to the show. They've just released images now after a tour of the Utah Mammoths' new practice facility unveiled today. Yes. It was delivered in 1 year after the promise to build it. 1 year. Yeah. It looks gorgeous. It's 146,000 square feet of hockey glory, as per Frank Saravelli. So that's the other way to do it. You write a check, as Ryan Smith did.
Yeah. I imagine it's a smaller check than what the Aquilinis would have to write, but you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. Okay, time now for our Bet365 bets of the day, Blake. I got to win. Jaden Nelson didn't score the first goal, but he did score. We had him as both an anytime goal scorer and first goal scorer for the Caps last night.
I did not win. Jays lost, or won, and I predicted the end to their winning streak,
yes.
So should not have doubted them.
So here's the thing. I was extremely bullish on this Seattle Mariners team in the postseason, even before their 10-game winning streak. And really ever since the trade deadline when they added Naylor and Suarez. So, I mean, they needed two big bats. They went out and they got two big bats. First time in forever we've been able to say Mariners management and ownership stepped up to the plate and did what they needed to do. I'm not sure there's a better starting rotation, 1 through 4, 1 through 5. Not that you'll need 5 starters in the postseason. And frankly, that M's bullpen is growing on me, seemingly better and better as the season goes along as well. So now that they look like a very good bet to make the postseason and get over some of the early season struggles they had, why not bet them to win the whole damn thing? The only Major League Baseball franchise to never appear in a World Series. I think there's a decent chance it ends this year. I'm actually kind of kicking myself because a few days ago I looked at this. It was 10-1. Well, it's still plus 900, 9-1. Give me the Mariners to win the World Series on my Bet365 bet of the day. Big swing.
The plus side of Canada being invested in women's sports on the ground floor, 25, 30 years ago when it started to become more invested in is we got good at a bunch of women's sports. The Canadian women's soccer team, perhaps the crowning example of that. Are we about to do it in women's rugby as well? Now, the Canadian women have had a tough time at the Soccer World Cup, but of course, Olympic champs. But Friday, Canada versus New Zealand with a chance to go to the final of the Women's Rugby World Cup. It's basically a pick'em. You get 1.5 points on the spread. So I'm just going to...
Which in rugby is really small potatoes, right?
It's basically a pick'em, so I'm going to go with the heart.
Yep.
Canadian women to
Why
win.
Not?
Plus 1.5.
Why not? This has been a fun story.
Yeah.
And again, they've destroyed everybody in pool play and even in the course segment. A presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app. Get in on the game. Use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Frank Curado is next. Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. The best plays aren't just on the ice or on the field. Stay downtown at the Wall. Enjoy an exclusive Harrison Price rate. Perks. Call 604-331-1000. Tell them we sent you. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. Here's Frank Curado, TSN hockey analyst, former Vancouver Canuck, who knows him about a prospect showcase or a prospect tournament or two. How are you, Frank?
Yeah, definitely been there a few times. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. It's people say that like silly season is when there's rumors floating around and so-and-so's going to go here and there and all kinds of crazy stuff is getting floated out there. I think there's an undercover silly season, and that is overanalyzing prospect games. And trying to put too much stock into prospect games. I think these are great for like fan engagement and people who have missed hockey, and you feel like you're connected to a certain prospect or prospects and you want to watch them play. But when it comes to like all these clips that are floating around out there and people talking about this guy had a good game, this guy had a bad game, it all doesn't matter this week. Like tomorrow, today, whatever happened in the prospect games, whether it was good, that's great. If you play like crap in training camp, no one cares. If you play bad in the prospect games and then all of a sudden you turn it on for training camp, great, no one cares. It's just it's like another little silly season among the regular season of hockey.
Didn't we uncover that you were the cover boy on the Prospects magazine for the Prospects camp at one point? Didn't we uncover that last year?
What does that tell you about the prospect pool at that time?
You were a cover boy. I mean, like,
Yeah.
people probably had that in their lockers at one point, you know?
I remember the halcyon days when we were talking about this fifth-rounder Corrado from Sudbury who had already outperformed
his draft slot. Yeah,
Sure,
exactly.
sure. Yeah, that was the state of our prospect pool at that point. But the team had been like trying to win a
Really
Stanley
good.
Cup.
That's
you know?
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
It wasn't. Listen, I wasn't on the cover because of my straight teeth. That's for sure.
So Elias Pettersson played in that prospect tournament. We were a little surprised at that because that was a guy who looked like a made NHL man at the end of last year, and they didn't even send him to Abbotsford for the Calder Cup playoff run. Frankie, he's a young player who has outperformed his draft slot and matriculated to the NHL early here, just 21 years old. We're sitting here wondering, he played nearly 38% of the time on the right side last year. His offside. But, of course, Derek Forbort has played the right side 20% of the time last year. And newcomer Pierre-Olivier Joseph, who you may know from Pittsburgh, was right side, lefty playing the right side 31% of the time last year. How would you line him up? Would you want the young defenseman to play his appropriate side, or would you want to see if he can play that more valuable right side?
I don't think he has to play his strong side. The reality of being a left-handed shot and being a defenseman is there's just a lot of lefties, and not everyone comes in playing their strong side and then slides over to the offside. Some guys just find comfort in it right away. So I don't get too hung up on that. It just depends what you've done and your level of comfort. But you know, when you look at all three of those guys, you can honestly say that Derek Forbort is who he is at this point. That's pretty much a done deal. P.O. Joseph, I would put into that category as well. Although,
Fair.
you know, he's athletic, he's got tools, but just I think as far as putting the package together, we're pretty much there. And so Elias Pettersson becomes the guy that you look at and you say, well, we're just getting started, and he's now in the conversation with these two guys, you know, as far as where the jockeying for position goes. And I look at that and say, well, this guy's he's got way more upside, but can he help you now? And can he hit the upside that he could potentially have while helping you now? And having him play in a prospect game or whatever the tournament is now, it gets changed from when I was there. In a way, it does help you kind of hit the ground running a little bit. Whatever kinks or, you know, you're just getting back into the flow of game action, timing, you can work it out there. And then once you get going into regular training camp, you should have a little bit of a, you know, I guess a foot ahead of the other guys. It doesn't always work that way, but you talked about how this is a guy who was on the NHL roster and then didn't go back down. That's my read on the situation. It's not, hey, we're putting you down there because we don't think you're ready to just show up at main camp. No, we're putting you down there because we believe that you have more to offer than a lot of these guys, but we want to help you achieve that by just giving you a little more runway.
Which is a more true statement. DPD should start on the left side on the third pair because you have to put a young player in the best position to succeed, or in the competition with Forbort and P.O. Joseph to win the right side job on your offside. He's just the most nimble right now. The youngest player, the most nimble. Maybe, if you're going to put a lefty over there that will periodically make a mistake, he's probably most capable of recovering from a mistake over the other two.
I always feel like the guy that's the most mobile should play his offside. Just the reality of the way you have to go back for pucks and the way you have to take pucks off the wall on your backhand, and even the way you kind of view the landscape of the ice. It's so much more different than when you're on your strong side. When you're on your strong side, it's there for you. You look up and there it is. Now when you're on your offside, you have to be more mindful of how you're scanning the ice because it's not the way your stick lines up and opens your body up that way. So I always was of the belief of, if you got a guy who's like taking your number one guy out of the equation, right? Because I think you always want to lead with your trump card as best as you can. So Quinn Hughes, most mobile left-handed shot, I'm not looking at him to play the right side because I want to put him in the best position to be a dominant force. But outside of that, I'm trying to pair, if I have this situation, I don't have righty-lefty, who's just a little more mobile, who's a little more agile, and who can, I guess, who can see the ice easier. Because sometimes it's just a matter of that split second where, hey, you didn't take that extra scan, and now you didn't see that a guy, has closed in on you quicker than you maybe thought. And I think the guy that's more mobile has a better chance of doing that. And
I agree, except game wisdom is something too, right? P.O. Joseph and Forbort have played many more NHL games, and they might have that game situational wisdom.
I actually think Forbort probably has that more than P.O. Joseph. I think Forbort is the more like the wily kind of cagey veteran, whereas P.O. Joseph has relied on his reach and feet and tools, let's say. So yeah, I think there's probably a distinction between Joseph and Forbort when it comes to who's like the cagier guy.
Tom Wielander played 2 seasons at Boston University. He also had extensive experience back home in Sweden. Frank, how long should Tom Wielander take to be an NHL-ready National Hockey League defenseman?
Like it shouldn't be that long. Like we should be kind of on the precipice of it, and now kind of seeing how he does, like making the jump. The thing about him is like he's got everything that you're looking for. He's big enough, he's fast enough, he's calm enough, moves the puck well enough, he's got a really good shot. So it's all there. I think now it's just about, from I guess the coach to player point of view, making him believe that he can make the jump, and keep in mind, like, take it. You have to take someone's job away from them essentially, in order to really solidify yourself, and not looking back and thinking like, am I going back down? Am I ready for this? And I think that's where it's like the 6 inches between the ears that really takes that last little bit for a player like that. Just believing you can actually grab it. But when you draft a guy that high, and keep in mind, like they drafted him higher than Axel Sandin Pellikka, who's, not exactly a shoe-in to fit in Detroit's roster right about now either. So, like, relative to his peers, he's right where really he's supposed to be. But I think this year is going to be a big one for him as far as moving the needle and kind of showing like he is ready to make that jump, because it's not the tools that would concern me. It's all there. It's just wrapping your mind around, I'm taking this now and I'm not looking back.
The training camp lineups, as we see them roll out over these next few days, We don't really know what the line combinations are going to be. We've got some guesses, obviously. Given NHL camps are as short as they are now, should we put a little bit more stock into what Adam Foote is doing, or is the fact that it's a new head coach, though? I mean, he even though he's been there as an assistant before, does he deserve the opportunity to really cycle through some combinations and see what he wants? So
the first lineups that come out are the ones that they drew up a long time ago and said, "I can't wait to try this. This is my first one out. I can't wait to try it." And in my head, my theory is this is the right lineup. That's no one's going to do that lineup second or third or even fourth, whatever. Like you're getting what they've drawn up first. At the same time, oftentimes, like unless we have lines that we really know have been great in the past that you're just not touching. I can think of the top line in Winnipeg, top line in Tampa, right? There's countless examples of that. The Lotto line was like that for a long time in Vancouver. There's a lot of movement. Like there just is. And with a new coach, and I think he does deserve like to see some things out and even say like, okay, this is what I thought it was going to be. Now let me move on to line combination 2 and 3 and see if that's what I think it's going to be and be proven right or wrong. And eventually you'll find hopefully anyways, you find the magic potion that works for you. But I think it's very telling. I do believe this. It's very telling when you see the first line combinations come out at training camp. That's what they think works.
I agree. And it's often what they default to later, too. Even if they might combo it up down the road, it's often what they fall back to.
Because there's just not enough time. You're right. There's just not enough time for everyone to gel. What are we, like 3 days, and then we're into preseason games? Like that is quick. So you there's no time to waste by scattering guys up and down the preseason or training camp lineups.
And the other thing that I'm interested in, and this is the case this year, but I think going forward as well, is with fewer preseason games, and we've seen this in the NFL, some teams, particularly some of the better teams, kind of view the first couple weeks of the regular season as an extended training camp preseason, where they're figuring things out because they figured they'll be in the playoffs at the end of the year. Anyways, I think there's going to be some ground to make up for that mid-pack here. That if you're ready to go right from the hop, particularly if some teams are taking a more gradual approach to the regular season, there are points in the offing that are going to look pretty good in March and April if you're able to get off to a good start.
Yeah, don't tell the players and the coaches about that theory, though. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like maybe management, if you gave them truth serum, they would maybe agree to something like that, where it's like, yeah, the regular season started, but we're still in this feeling out process. But for the coaches and the players, I think sometimes the product might look like that just because things aren't super ironed out yet. But but the mentality is certainly not that way. Like they're basically starting, very rigid and ready to go, and we're not messing around. Like that starts. Like there's such a difference from the last day of the preseason to the first day of the regular season. It really is. Like the environment around the room, in practices, the tempo picks up for some reason. Everything's just a little more crisp. Everyone's a little more solidified in their spots. Of course, there's always going to be occasions where players are still trying to vie for a full-time job. They might get sent down to junior, might go down to the American League, but they're getting the first crack at it. But there's such a difference, I find, between just day-to-day from training camp or preseason to the first day of the regular season. And so, yeah, if you can hit the ground running, you can bank some points and maybe get the jump on some teams that might not have things sorted out yet, but everyone's going through the same thing. It's not really exclusive to one team or the other.
I love October hockey. I've always loved October hockey. One
goals, there's fun.
Yeah. One thing to note for next year when they go to 4 preseason games, guys, and this already happens with 6 preseason games. Frankie, there's going to be players that start every regular season that have not scored yet. Like goal scorers that, because they're only going to get into 1 or 2 preseason games next year, have not lit the lamp yet. They haven't had that feeling yet. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that affects a goal
That's what I'm
scorer.
saying. When I say go forward, like you're telling me in a world of 4 or 5 preseason games, that Stanley Cup champions that come back intact are going to be playing their players in those games and not treating the first couple of weeks of October as extended.
There might be teams that
that
start the season with 2 preseason goals, like as a team. Like if they struggle with those 4 games, like the whole team has scored 2 goals in the preseason and then they're in.
Keep in mind they're going to have to play a certain amount of vets still, right? Like that's going to be consistent. The other thing, I think what will happen when we eliminate half the preseason games is the guys who are going to play 3 games or 4 games, it might be 2 or 3. Like you might maybe X out one of them. Yeah. But it's all these guys that were absolutely going to the American League and wear a number that you've never seen before on that jersey. Like those are the guys that just aren't going to play the games where, some teams roll it out this way. If it's 8 games, 4 at home, 4 on the road, the NHL guys will play the 4 games at home or 3 games at home, and the AHL guys will play the games on the road, and then at the conclusion of it, they'll send 45 guys away from camp and say, see you later, yes. And we have our team. So we're not going to get that, right? Yeah. Like those are the guys we won't see anymore. But if you were pick a player, like if you were Sasha Barkov and you liked playing 3 preseason games, you could probably still play 3. Maybe you'll play 2, but that's not going to really change things that much for a guy like Sasha Barkov. But Buddy, who wants the Getty Images picture of himself in the Florida Panthers uniform so he could put it on Instagram and say, what a great time at camp. See you guys in Charlotte. That's the guy who maybe, gets the short end of the stick. R.I.P. the Instagram post with the nice Getty Images photo. You're going to need to get a great job jersey.
At Getty. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Setting aside whatever qualms you or your fan base may have about signing one of these former Canadian World Junior players, and assuming he has kept himself in decent playing shape, Dylan Dubé has played some center. It was mostly wing, but has played some center over the years with the Calgary Flames. We know there are a lot of teams, including the Vancouver Canucks, that are looking to beef up their quality and or quantity at center ice. Can he be a helpful player? Did what you see of him before he had to leave the NHL look to you like a quality NHL forward?
Yes, but keep in mind that's a little while ago, and it was pointed out that I think he's got 7 goals over his last 2 years of hockey, something like that, between the KHL and the year where he had to stop playing for Calgary. And then 18 the 2 prior years, and basically a 50-point player at that point when he was at his best. So I would say this. He probably is a 50-point player, a 20-goal scorer when everything's going well. It's going to take him, I think, a little while to get back up to where he was, especially playing at the NHL level. It's different than the KHL. I played in both. The tempo, it's different at the NHL. I also do believe that the stark, difference in production would have had something to do with what he was going through. It's not easy to play, like regardless of what everyone thinks of the situation. It's not easy to play professional hockey when you have this, what that was, looming and constantly on your mind. So I don't think he's a 7 goals over 2 years of hockey player. Like that's not who he is. He's probably closer to the 18 to 20 goal scorer, but I wouldn't expect that to happen right away, just because he's back in the NHL. You're probably going to have to look at it and say, we'll give you this year, we'll give you next year, and then we want to see you back to that. And we'll see if he can get there, whoever gives him that opportunity.
Yeah. Lastly, from me, Frank, we, of course, are accustomed to being the NHL's biggest soap opera. We're again last year, filled your cups. Thank you very much. Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Kirill Kaprizov, Quinn Hughes. Whose future do you think will turn into the bigger NHL drama this season?
So I think what comes with that is market and visibility, that usually lends itself to, being more dramatic. So I don't know if, even though Kaprizov is such a good player, I don't know how dramatic that gets. I think it just turns into, he doesn't want to sign in Minnesota. He'll probably go somewhere else and he'll make $19 million if he wants to. Or he'll take, 16 somewhere else just because it's somewhere he really wants to be. The McDavid thing gets squashed really quickly if there's an extension, but there's no extension. So that stands to be, I think, the most dramatic if we start getting into halfway through the year and then Olympic break and then trade deadline and like, whoa, boy, what are we doing here? I think the Crosby thing, no one's kidding themselves on what Pittsburgh is. So I don't think that gets overly dramatic either. And then Quinn Hughes, we can connect the dots on what that might look like down the road. So there's no not to say that there's no wow factor, but we see what the point A to point B looks like. For McDavid, I think it just keeps getting amplified and amplified, even though he'll do everything as the season starts to say not talking about it anymore, but everyone around.
No, it's a fantastic. It's a fantastic point that it's the McDavid destination that I think is the biggest mystery here, if there is a destination, and that's what may make him.
And what does he want to see? What does he want to see from Edmonton?
Yeah,
and someone pointed out to me, this could be the last healthy year of Ekholm. And if you look at the blue line without Ekholm, what are we doing? Right? He's the glue there. So anyways, I think
the Crosby competitive itch gets scratched. He's got 2 years to go. The Crosby competitive itch gets to get scratched by the Olympics this year. I wonder if we don't see really this story hit the ground until next summer, maybe, for Crosby. Because then he's got an empty year for nothing.
And then it's going to depend on who they draft. If they're really bad and they win the lottery and they draft McKenna, which I don't think they're going to be bad enough to do, but
they want the mentor, and they might win the lottery though.
If they draft McKenna, then you're like, well, he's staying put. He's going to do the Mario thing.
You're right.
If they don't, then I think the door remains open for something different.
Yeah.
We'll watch with interest. You'll be along for the ride on Wednesdays, Frank. Thank you for this. Until next week.
All right, boys. See ya.
Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. This next segment brought to you by the Daily Face-Off. They have your back with the brand new DFO Draft Fantasy Kit or Fantasy Draft Kit. Either way, you know what I'm talking about. It's a one-stop shop. Everything you need to build that perfect fantasy hockey team, player projections, updated power plays, line combinations, sleeper picks, bus warnings, team previews. Basically all the tools to make you look like a genius while your friends draft blindfolded. So before you make that pick in the 5th round, because you're going to screw it up somewhere around the 5th or 6th round. It happens to everybody. Make sure you download and take a look at the DFO Fantasy Draft Kit. Find it, dailyfaceoff.com/draft-kit. Here's Jeff, or call Jeff Merrick, and he will give you all his inside info because that is how he rolls, and this is his expertise.
The bane of my existence, predictions. Hey, who's going to win the Stanley Cup? Hey, who's going to be the surprise breakout player? The real answer is I don't know, and none of us do. But nonetheless, whenever I hear hockey drafts or hockey fantasy, there was one genius move that I made in the history of me doing hockey pools, and that was in Teemu Selanne's rookie season. I mean, let's not forget. No, listen, I got him in the 5th round as a total flyer. No one really knew this was coming. And this was when all of our information was essentially the Star, the Globe, the Sun, and the Weekly Hockey News magazine. So he had kind of flown under the radar. Solanne was the guy that won me a pool. That was
you
it.
Got that was 76 goals out of Teemu. Was it 76 goals out of Teemu in his rookie year?
Yeah, it was great.
That's the all-timer.
Move. I should have just put the pen down like that.
Exactly. Retire after that one.
Beat it. Yeah, that was.
It will never be better than that.
That was my gap year, and I was traveling through Europe. And every time I pick up a USA Today, I'd be like, "He got 3 more goals. He got that rookie."
I don't even know who this guy is. We got 3 more goals.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
That was
great.
your gap year.
Yeah,
wow.
Down downhill ever since that for me. Anyway, hello, gentlemen. How are you guys?
Good. I think I was in like grade 8 or grade 9.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
Okay, Jeff, predictions time.
Okay.
Of a different sort.
Shoot.
Who do you think is going to be at the eye of the center of the NHL storm, the center of the NHL soap opera this season? Because there's
drama
noise.
per 60. Who
Exactly.
leads the league in drama per 60?
Because there's noise around Sydney, and there's never noise around Sydney. There's noise around Connor, and there's never noise around Connor. There's big noise around Kaprizov, and of course there's noise around Quinn here in Vancouver. Like, who do you think is playing out the big drama this year?
4 superstars.
Yeah.
Can I really warm up to the local crowd and say JT Miller?
We'll get to
We're
that.
interested in that one too.
Story too.
Yeah.
Listen, I would say it's Sydney, just because it's a story that I think we've all wondered about for a long time. Like, I've sort of framed it this way. What this seems like to me, and this may just be too simple of a way to frame it, but it seems to me like this is the battle, Sidney Crosby's internal battle. What is going to win? Loyalty or competitiveness? Like that's what it is. I think we all looked at Crosby and said, that guy is going to retire a Penguin. And then, you look at the shady side of the mountain of the career here, the back nine, and you say, like, does he really want the end of his career? Does he really want to go out with a whimper here at the end of his career? Certainly Olympics is something to get charged for if you're Sidney Crosby. But this is getting very real. And now even, Pat Brisson has weighed in on it. And forever we've always believed Crosby's retiring a pen, Malkin's retiring a pen, Letang's retiring a pen. That's always been the plan. That's always what, Mario wanted, for example. But now I think we're having that conversation, and every single time the Penguins lose this year, that question will rear its head. Now, immediately, Kaprizov is just, juicy drama, turning down what would have been the league's richest contract of all time. McDavid's comments continue to make Oilers fans at least a little bit nervous here. And geez, I don't know, like, I was talking to someone the other day who said, why, you guys will like this, why doesn't McDavid just create a meme coin and have the Oilers dump $10 million in it and get around this, and he can just sign a deal that makes the Oilers competitive? Like, that's the level of kind of craziness that this conversation.
The Kawhi Leonard approach to compensation. I love it.
No show sponsorship.
Crosby keeps saying the 97 meme coin, guys. Come on, get on board.
Crosby keeps saying the right things. He was on that season ticket delivery. He keeps saying no. A man is allowed to change his mind, so he could make an about face. But for now, you think he believes that?
I do. I think that what's top of mind for Sidney Crosby is loyalty, and also not rocking the boat, not creating any more drama than is already around him right now, whether he believes it or not. And I'm sort of the mind that, Crosby is loyal before he's looking to make his hockey DB look different. So I think that, St. Jude, the patron saint of lost causes? Perhaps he feels like, I'm going to give it a shot here and see where we're at this season, and then perhaps make a decision, have those phone calls. But make no mistake about it, like, this is going to be a decision that's completely driven by Sidney Crosby and his agent, Pat Brisson. Like, I can't see any scenario where Kyle Dubas, anyone from the Penguins, goes to Sidney and says, do you still want to be here? Because if you're Dubas, and I just had him on the show the other day, like, he denied that there was a rush to get players into the lineup so he could get the Sidney Crosby rub, or sort of sit at the master's feet, learn how the master operates here. But, they want McGroarty in there. They want Koivunen in there. Like, they want these players in there now, and in Sidney Crosby's dressing room and in the gym with Sidney Crosby. That is part of the development model for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
You're right to bring up the Olympics here too, Jeff, because that adds an interesting little wrinkle to the Sidney Crosby story. Olympic break February 6th to 24th, NHL trade deadline March 6th.
Yeah.
does he want this looming while he's got the Canadian sweater on? Or if things go poorly for Pittsburgh, is this something that's wrapped up for Sydney's peace of mind? And, of course, to cut off all the questions at the pass at a global stage, is this something that's wrapped up by early February, a month before the trade deadline, if, in fact, he does want to seek a more competitive team?
It's a great question. I respect you and your audience too much just to give you a frivolous answer just for the sake of doing talk radio, but I don't know.
But we can all see it, though, right?
And
with
think,
Sydney,
we can all see it.
Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure,
absolutely.
Like if this is the decision that he's making, I can absolutely see him saying, let's get this out of the way before.
But he can head it off
because
at the
that's the
pass,
one trophy he can win right now.
But he can head it off at the pass. He can declare at any point right before the Olympics, 4 weeks before the Olympics, say, guys, I can declare to you emphatically, I am not going anywhere before this deadline. If he does that, I mean,
fair enough.
I think you have to take him at his word.
It's a complicated trade, though. Right? Like, because he's going to have to approve. He still makes a pretty good buck. Somebody is going to have to either have the cap space or be able to move some back. So, not to mention the return. And, of course, Kyle Dubas has to save face there, right? Like, it has to be enough of a return for the Penguins to face their fans and say, okay, we've made a good trade for the future of the franchise.
I'm glad you brought up salary cap because the conspiracy theory that's out there is Crosby came in at a team-friendly number. So if this is a decision that he makes somewhere along the way, it's easier for the Penguins to end up moving him. I mean, he didn't gobble up, major percentages of cap space for the Pittsburgh Penguins in here. He came at a very team reasonable number.
Oh, so it's very reasonable.
It has to be made. Like, they can do this.
Don't get me wrong; it's very reasonable, but it's still $8.7 million. Like that's still not the.
But it's Sidney Crosby.
No, for sure. But Jeff, how many teams are going to have 8.7 in cap space available? Right. That's my point. Is you're going to have to see some machinations.
Before we get to Quinn and the Canucks, let me ask you in this form: who is more likely to move in the next 12 months, Connor McDavid or Sidney Crosby?
I think Sidney Crosby.
Really?
More so than Connor McDavid.
Really?
More so Crosby than if that's the choice. I still think Connor is staying. Like, Connor's trying to thread a really interesting needle here, right? I mean, one, he has to take care of himself. He has to take care of the Oilers to make sure that there's enough room for Stan Bowman to maneuver to make sure that the Oilers are competitive enough that they can still have a couple of more swings at the Stanley Cup pinata here. And whereas this used to be a lot higher on the on the ladder or on the pecking order, I think as well do what's quote unquote right for the Players Association. That you're the number one player in the league. Like, let's raise all ships here. I think that all star players at the top of their game, carry that obligation with them.
Okay, on to Quinn. There has been so much noise since we last talked to you, including him not even being able to say yes when asked, is there any chance he re-signed with the Canucks? Jack saying, I want to play with my brother. I'm not afraid to say it.
Luke not signing.
Biz saying they're all going to wind up with the Rangers, like on and on and go. Like, it seems like every day there's another twist here in the Quinn Hughes future.
Yeah. You saw the Devils training camp roster that came out this morning?
Yeah. No Luke Hughes?
No Luke Hughes on. Everyone freaked out.
No, exactly. What's your sense of where this is going, Jeff?
I have a hard time believing that it doesn't get done. There was the theory out there that perhaps he wanted to line up this contract to end when Jack Hughes' contract ends, furthering speculation that they all want to do something together somewhere. And we all saw Paul Bissonnette's belief that perhaps they all end up with the New York Rangers somewhere down the road. I have a hard time believing that this one doesn't get done. I don't think it's in anyone's interest for Luke Hughes to miss any training camp at all. We've just seen the story far too often. It doesn't do the team good. It doesn't do the player good. It doesn't do anyone any good for this to happen.
What about
again? I can see it. The Quinn. I mean, unfortunately for Vancouver Canucks fans, like, this is going to be a story all season long. Like every game in, game out. This is going to continue to be a story. This one's not going away anytime soon. And I was saying last time I was on here, I believe that if the Vancouver Canucks are of the belief that there is not enough money to keep Quinn Hughes in Vancouver, how do you not listen on everybody? How do you not listen on everyone? Because it's sea change. If you're firmly in the corner of there's no way that Quinn Hughes is going to come back here. To say nothing of what does that mean for the captaincy, which is another conversation that I think we've all had at this point. If there's not that long-term commitment, as we talk about Vancouver Canucks and the sea, which has been a story the last 24 hours.
Do you think fans should be able to park this worry? Or should the club be able to?
I think it's a reality.
Worry?
Well, the fans absolutely can and will.
I think fans, the fans just have to. Like, this is just the reality of sports. Like here's the thing about the Hughes situation, which extends to Luke and extends to Jack as well, in some regards, because he's talked about this openly. Haven't we always wondered? And we got a little hint of it years ago. It's funny we mentioned Teemu Selanne to start this conversation. When Teemu Selanne and Paul Kariya both went to Colorado at a deep discount. We understand why they did that, so they could ring the bell afterwards. But like, they went as a pair. Haven't we always kind of wondered when hockey was going to become more like basketball? Mm-hmm. Like, does this Hughes story not feel very basketball-y?
Yes, it does. We were talking about that yesterday on the show.
Yeah, so it, and I understand that it makes hockey fans uncomfortable, but it makes you uncomfortable. And certainly if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan, but because we've never been here before with hockey, where an entire family openly talks about wanting to play together and maneuvering. Like, does Luke just want 5 years on his deal? So he can match up with Jack, and then maybe Monday match up with Quinn, and they all go somewhere. Like, again, this might be the beginning of a new era in hockey contract negotiation where players go as pairs and families go together. We've never seen it before. We don't know what it feels like, and unfortunately for Vancouver Canucks fans, they're the test animal.
The happy medium scenario,
pilot project.
The happy medium scenario might be everybody wanting them to line up 5 years from now, meaning maybe Quinn's okay signing a 3-year extension with the Canucks. And then you get 5 more years of Quinn Hughes. And you know what? If you haven't done it in 5 years, maybe he deserves to be able to walk. Maybe that's the best case scenario for a Canucks fan and for the Canucks. I mean, if you could tell the Canucks right now, you'll get him for 3 more after this contract, 5 more years from today. I think that's
almost the best you can hope for.
That's the best you can hope for, I think, isn't it?
If you're Vancouver and that's going to be the decision, but then you say to yourself, they still want to line up as soon as possible. Like, sure, they want to line up all their contracts so they can all move together. But if they're going to,
you want to scratch your itch. You want to scratch your itch
as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So,
well, and in terms of,
as an outsider, and again, like I want to emphasize here, like I really feel for Vancouver Canucks fans here. Like, this is the one of the best players in the history of the organization. This is probably the best defenseman the Vancouver Canucks have ever had. One of the most dynamic players in the NHL. Someone, and you can count these probably on one hand, that you actually pay money just to go watch. Like, I'm sympathetic to this completely, and take no joy in it. But at the same time, you're dealing with the realities of wanting to play together.
And we do deal with reality on this show. And look,
but hey, the Canucks have had the opportunity to do this too, and amazingly, and they're a tight group too.
Well, no. What opportunity did they have? Matthew demands a trade to Ottawa?
Well, they've sculpted their career. They've signed long-term deals with the teams that they've done. Well,
but again, like, even the long-term deal, if you're a star player, you can force a trade. As for your question,
I remember when Brady was going through his contract situation with Ottawa. I remember at the Players Tour talking to Matthew Tkachuk, And Matthew made the point. He's like, when you negotiate with one of us, you negotiate with all of us.
Yeah.
It's not just Brady and the agent. It's me. It's Dad. Like, it is the family. I don't think we should think that the Hugheses are any different. You negotiate with one, you negotiate with all.
As for setting us, we talked about this with John Shannon yesterday, and John was like, Canucks fans, just enjoy him. Like, just don't get swept up in the what could happen.
Enjoy it.
And that's fair enough.
Yeah.
And fans will, because look, they'll get swept up in the wins and the losses. They'll have other players who curry their favor or become the object of dissatisfaction. It's a long season with a tapestry of storylines that fans will get into. Now, there may very well be that little thing in the back of your head on Quinn Hughes, but management, it's a more day-to-day scenario because they're privy to conversations and I suspect phone calls about Quinn's availability. So we'll see where all of this goes. JT Miller as Rangers captain, what was your first thought?
My first thought was I'm really not as plugged in on the Rangers as I thought I was, because I thought going away this was going to be Vincent Trocheck. I really thought that Vincent Trocheck was going to be the next captain of the New York Rangers. But then upon further review, after it happened, you digest it and you sort of, Hansel and Gretel and go back with the breadcrumbs and you say to yourself, a couple of things here. Like, this is a very powerful Chris Drury move. We're not going internal here. This is a strong move by Chris Drury to say what happened last year. Everybody grousing about what happened with Gaudreau and what happened with Jacob Trouba, public comments. Like, we're not going to have that anymore here. This is my guy. This is someone who is come in from another organization. He's come back to New York, and the one thing that I can't get out of my mind is I wonder if this is an indication that the Rangers want this room run hot. Not unlike, and now you see Blake Wheeler with the Rangers organization, not unlike that Winnipeg room was with Scheifele and Wheeler. Like, that room was run really hot. A lot of guys react positively to it and succeed, and some other guys are named Patrik Laine, who really didn't jive with running the room hot. I wonder if this is Chris Drury saying, you know what, no more of this. No more public complaining about the general manager's moves. You're accountable to one another. You're accountable to this organization. We are running this hot. The other thing that I thought about was this is a lot of scrutiny now on JT Miller, who still does have flaws in his game. I wonder, with the C going on, is that the end of straight leg back checks? Because now all of a sudden JT Miller as the captain will be scrutinized more than ever. We all know what JT Miller can bring to a team, what he can bring to an organization. But it's not as if he plays a perfect game. I think that this is a lot more on JT Miller as well. And I understand that, listen, if you guys follow the Vancouver Canucks 24/7, Vancouver Canucks fans will say, this guy was sent home. This guy was, whatever happened in Nashville is what happened in Nashville. And here we are a year later, and he's captain of one of the biggest teams in the NHL. I know it feels like a disconnect for Vancouver Canucks fans, but this one to me has Chris Drury power move written all over it.
He's also going to be 33 at the trade deadline. Like, straight leg back checks become kind of the regular when you're 33 plus in the National Hockey League. So good luck to him in eliminating them now as he gets older.
Team, right? Rangers are an older team too. It's an older squad.
Well, and that's the thing is that you talk about that Winnipeg team. That Winnipeg team was pretty freaking good. And even they, with running it hot, always had that second round maximum, playoff run. This is not as good a team. So, again, good luck to them in all that. Chris Drury, what do you think his reputation is around the league making decisions like this? Do you think is he out on an island?
Blake has a new fascination, and his name is Chris Drury. Like, he wants to know what makes Drury tick and what people think of Drury, given everything that has transpired.
I honestly really don't get the sense that Chris Drury cares what people think of him.
I think that's fair.
I don't think that Chris, or else he would not have put Kreider and Trouba out the way that he did. Like honestly, like I think that Chris Drury has a conviction that is not influenced whatsoever by popular opinion.
Yes.
I think,
and a lot of
also at the
people,
same time,
a lot of people say that, Jeff. Very few people act that way. Like a lot of people will say, I don't care what others think about me, but they, of course they do. Very few people put that into action on a day-to-day basis. But I'll tell you this, in that regard, he's the perfect general manager for his owner, James Dolan. Like James Dolan is not a guy who's going to get along just to get along. Like he has been such a thorn in the NBA Board of Governors side on the Knicks side of his racket. Like I read a line about him that, you know, like James Dolan's the type of guy that if you pass him in the morning before a board meeting and say, hey, James, good morning, he might say, what's so good about it? So I think you've got that level of just sort of
great line
confrontation, leading with confrontation or leading with just a resistance to getting along.
But he's also lucky that he works in New York for the Rangers, Jeff, because if he was the Columbus Blue Jackets general manager, this act wouldn't work because people aren't clamoring to play for the Blue Jackets. And of course, that's different for an original 6 team in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Which Lee, I'm glad you took us down that road, Blake, because what I think a lot of people are wondering about here, I mentioned that it's an older team for a reason. Listen, I'm not saying that Connor McDavid's going to be a Ranger. I'm not saying Kirill Kaprizov's going to be a Ranger. I'm not saying that Jack Eichel's going to be a Ranger. But next year's free agent crop could be a bonanza here. I really do wonder how much clearing of the decks that Drury has in the back of his mind, knowing that next season could completely be sea change for the New York Rangers. Look, Artemi Panarin's on the last year of his contract. There's not a hint or a whisper of a contract extension for Artemi Panarin. I'm not the only one to make this point. Can anyone else see Kirill Kaprizov sliding into that spot? I think we all can.
Of course.
I think the Drury power move here is an indication that last season, both on the ice and off the ice, and how our team talked about our team is unacceptable, and I'm putting an end to it, and this is a big plant the flag move. I'm not going into I thought it was going to be Trocheck. I thought the one player that distinguished himself last year as a leader on that Rangers team, having said that, I'm not there, was Vincent Trocheck. I thought it was going to be him. I was wrong. This is power move by Drury. This is my team, and we're doing things a different way. This is the guy I went out and got. He's our guy. Everybody get in line.
Well, and Dolan demanded the same thing a few years ago after Tom Wilson and the Capitals roughed them up. As you remember in the bubble, he was like, we're not doing this anymore. They threw out the coach. They changed man. Anyways, okay. Easter egg time. This is
got one for you.
I think I've done one show with Marek in the last 2 months just because of our vacations. And seemingly I was away when he was on, and when I was here, he was away. And I have a feeling he's a little shook by our Easter eggs because now he comes prepared with his own. So, Mr. Merrick, the floor is all yours. Put us on the spot, please.
Now, the reason, actually, I'm not going to say why because I might give it away. Okay. 1980s.
1980s?
Okay? 1980s. Okay. Top scorer in the 1980s, and we talked about hockey polls a second ago. Top scorer in the 1980s is a tap-in, is an obvious one. Wayne Gretzky, 1,837 points.
I think I have this, Blake.
Who is number 2?
Peter Stastny.
986. Bravo. Marcel Dion, 980. Yari Curry, 950. The reason I bring it up is because I listened to your show yesterday, and by the way, John Shannon was outstanding. I love John. The reason I bring it up is you guys were talking about I can't remember
Hughes brothers, Stastny brothers.
The Hughes brothers and Stastny.
That's right.
Like, I'm like, tomorrow I'm on with the boys.
I know it's one of the great trivias in stats. It is absolutely
like. We look at the era of centers and Mario and Messier and Gretzky and Yzerman and Howard. No one. How deep into a conversation before you mention Peter Stastny?
Or how about the Islanders and Bossy, right? Like all those scorers in the 80s, and yet Peter Stastny was number 2.
Peter Stastny I always paid attention to because prior to Howardchuk, who was my favorite player, the first rookie to score 100 points was Peter Stastny, and Howard Chick was the second.
Well, go look at it. Go look it out on YouTube. Dave Naylor did an incredible documentary on the Stastny brothers a number of years ago on TSN, like including the early ones who went, knowing that they put, I think it was Marion, who was the last one to come over. Marion's the oldest and was the last one to come over, if I'm not mistaken. That Peter and Anton basically, put Marion and his family in jeopardy, and just the way the brothers have had to reconcile that.
Do you have the whole list in front of you, the 80s? Where's Trottier on that list?
I'm going to tell you right now. Trottier is 8th. You want to hear the whole? You want to hear the top 10?
And where's Ducky?
So we got.
Yeah.
Ducky is 11th.
Stastny.
Oh, okay.
Stastny, Dion Curry, Denny Savard.
Wow.
Savard. Okay.
Bernie Federko.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Brian Trottier. Michel Goulet. There's another forgotten one. Number 10,
Goulet.
the first defenseman.
Yeah.
Paul Coffey. And then your guy,
wow.
Ducky. Followed by Messier, Bobby Smith, Brian Propp, Mike Gardner, Dave Taylor, Glenn Anderson, Ray Bork, someone named Mario. Fascinating. Peter Stastny, number 2.
Mario played
weird.
4 or 5 years, and he's in 15.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's it. He played half the decade. He played the decade.
He played like the fewest games. By the way, one final thing. I remember talking to Peter Stastny years and years ago about the 76 Canada Cup, which I'm still fascinated with. And he talked about how much a divide in the room between the Czechs and the Slovaks there were.
Yeah.
And how and he was young too. I remember my dad, like, we got to go see this son because the Stastny, Peter Stastny, this, I'm young, impressionable. And I'm learning all about Vladimir Zarilla. And
that was the decade before the Velvet Revolution. My grandfather was born in a little village in Slovakia, and somehow decades later, sitting in his house in Montreal, still harbored a grudge against the Czechs. And like, we would say to him, like, what are you doing? Like, that is like, we don't do that here. No old world grudges in this life. Stop telling your grandchildren not to trust Czechs.
I'm amazed we knew about foreign players without the internet. Like, how did information travel?
He mentioned it. It was the newspapers. It was the hockey news. It was wire
that's
services.
All it was.
That's all you had.
For me, it was
but there was a mystery.
For me, it was the hockey news.
Oh,
yeah.
For me, it was the hockey news, though.
That was the best part of it, though, Jeff. There was like a discovery. Like the Bo Jackson documentary talks about this. There's some high school kid in Alabama who has such a strong throwing arm, he threw a rock and killed a pig. Like, and then so there was this discovery and legend and lore that would build up.
Half of it true.
About the mysterious player on the other side of the world, or playing on such a low level that, there was no television coverage or radio. Marvelous stuff. And the best part is I get to save my Easter egg for next week.
Okay, we'll pause on that one. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for indulging me in some stats.
He gets to play on the other end of the game next week. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, boys.
So here's some price from the historic Wall Center, our studio built by Arbor Lee, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Whitecaps win the battle, but take a step towards losing the war. They annihilate Fort FC. This is the best the CPL had to offer, and they got dummied 4-0.
With many starters not only injured, but just by coach's decision sitting and watching.
At BC Place, they advanced to the Canadian Championship final for the 4th consecutive year, seeking a 4th consecutive trophy. But they lose center back Tristan Blackman, a key player who was making inroads with the U.S. men's national team, but also their stalwart defender, particularly after the season-ending injury to Ranko Veselinovic earlier this year. It's a knee injury, and it does not look good, according to head coach Jesper Sorensen. The real pity here is that Blackman was only playing because 2 newcomers at center back, Jodrik Pipa and Sebastian Schonlau, both hurt and weren't available. Schonlau was injured toiling for Whitecaps 2 during their 3-week bye. Bottom line, if that Orlando game isn't rescheduled, they don't have the long break. Schonlau doesn't play with Whitecaps FC 2. He plays last night. Tristan Blackman. I blame Don Garber and MLS.
Yeah, it's
devastating news, though, Blake, and you can speak to it. So,
if you want to go down your woulda, coulda, shoulda, if the League's Cup didn't have a third place game,
Oh, Jesus. There's a third place game for a tournament. Nobody cares about the first place
because
game?
the winner of the third place game gets a
my
Champions
God.
League spot. But if you doled that out in a different way, and you didn't have a third place game. That's the only reason why that game was postponed, because their
Too many cups.
Their semifinal was earlier in the week. They could have played a weekend league game, but
Too many cups.
It is absolutely devastating. So
Because they can't replace him, right?
No.
No transfer window. Trade deadline was last month. That's that, right?
Pupa and Shilna will be healthy for playoffs, but these are new players that have not been in the system. That it's a wing and a prayer there a little bit for them.
Who are the other center back options on the roster?
Laborda, you can swing back into the middle.
Okay. Laborda's going to have to play the middle.
Yeah, he knows the system. And it's too bad because he is so fun to watch coming in off the wing. He's been great with his head. It's really, really too bad.
Yeah.
There could be a miracle in the imaging. You never know. Sometimes players look like this, and they go back and they go, holy cow, it's just a super serious sprain. And remember, 6 weeks till game one of the playoffs.
Right.
So
Lots of international
there's
breaks
a big international
still.
window still. So, like, if you get a miracle in imaging, there is a chance for Blackman, but they're going to need that.
I caught your tweet yesterday. Best Vancouver sports team since 2011, these Caps?
Well, there's not name another sports team that has one of the top players in the planet on their team. Like, who has ever been a top player?
Is Mueller still that guy?
No, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
No. I mean, 2012 Canucks won the President's Trophy, but we're out in the first round. Vancouver Canadians have won some championships since then, but needless to say, minor league baseball roster in flux. Go on out there and enjoy the Caps. They're into Kansas City this weekend. As for the game last night, it was all Vancouver. Stat stuffing, Sebastian Berhalter, a goal and an assist. Blackman, before he got hurt, Jay Nelson, JC Ogando also scored.
Ogando's goal was spectacular.
It was.
And he played well. He was dribbling.
And the 17-year-old academy product from Edmonton, Rayan Alume, adds an assist in his second match with the senior Caps. Goalkeeper and our boy Isaac Boehmer from Okanagan Falls, British Columbia, pitches the shutout.
Illumi with a beautiful assist. I mean, nothing goal, but a beautiful assist. What I want to point out, though, the hockey assist on that one, he got a gorgeous ball from a forgotten player because we haven't really seen him play. Kenji Cabrera, of course, it was the Pedro Vite replacement effectively on the roster.
This is the Chilean?
Yes, but they're going to do a slow ramp up with him, sort of what they did with Eddie Ocampo last year, right? We didn't really see much of Ocampo after he was acquired. They're doing the same thing with Cabrera. That assist was spectacular to get to Illumi, and then Illumi a beautiful cross. So a little snippet to get excited about.
And we could have the all-Vancouver derby in the final. The Whitecaps will play the winner of Vancouver FC and Atletico Ottawa. VFC holds a 3-1 aggregate lead heading into their second and final leg tomorrow in our nation's capital. Thomas Mueller did not play in this match, but was, as he has been from the moment he stepped off the plane, highly visible here in Vancouver for the Caps. Continues to ingratiate himself to Vancouver and Canadians. Spotted wearing a Terry Fox T-shirt. Spotted wearing a Truth and Reconciliation T-shirt. I loved what our buddy Irf Gafar of Rinkwide said. Not many athletes have come to Canada and specifically Vancouver and embraced it the way Mueller has. His play on the field speaks for itself, but by all accounts, it's the things he's doing off the field with teammates and support staff and Whitecaps employees that is most impactful. He has been incredibly approachable to all. He has not come here with the Ibrahimovic ego or with the Thierry Henry attitude. He has come here basically saying, I belong to you. I'm here to help in any way I can. It's been an extraordinary story for Caps, for both club and Mueller. Cal Raleigh stands alone among switch hitters and is one dinger away from passing Junior. The M's catcher and American League MVP frontrunner hits 2 more home runs. He is up to 56 on the season. It ties Ken Griffey Jr.'s single-season club record, and it moves him past Mickey Mantle's 1961 record. Blake, the record stood for 64 years. 54 home runs by a switch hitter. He's past that. Oh, and the Mariners won again. Ho-hum. For the 10th consecutive time, first time they've done that in 3 years. They beat Kansas City, maintain a half-game lead over Houston in the AL West. They're now just 2 back of Detroit for the second-best record in the AL, and that comes with a first-round bye. Jays win 2.
Okay, first of all, can Cal Raleigh get to 62?
Yeah, the Maris mark, you mean? Passing the old Maris mark?
Yeah, and tying Judge. And really what many would think is the cleanest of the home run records, because everybody above Judge is named Sosa, McGuire, or Bonds. Mm-hmm. So is 62 the real home run record?
Yeah.
He's got a half chance. Imagine
if he gets to 60, he ties Babe Ruth.
Well, Babe's got 59 and a 60 home run. Like,
that's right.
If you're Cal Raleigh, who is a pretty unassuming guy, I think for the most part, he's going to start to be equated with Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
Well, not to mention passing Ken Griffey. Like, my goodness.
Well, virtually every name on that list, in the vicinity of this list, who is retired, is a Hall of Famer or Bonds, Sosa, McGuire.
Yes.
Jays win 2. That's 6 in a row for Toronto. Their magic number to clinch a playoff spot is 3. Any combination of 3 Jays wins and Cleveland losses gets them in. That could come as soon as tomorrow.
Yeah.
Their magic number for the division is 6. Any combo of Jays wins, Yankees losses could get them the AL East. The earliest that could happen is Friday. John Paul Morosi with some reporting. Second opinion on Bo Bichette's injured left knee confirms that the injury is short-term and expected to improve with rest and rehabilitation. Morosi reports it's still possible that Bichette returns in time for the postseason. He has not played since September 6th, but it's been guys like Andres Jimenez with the glove, Ernie Clement with the bat, who have stepped in and filled for an all-star shortstop. It's been an extraordinary story of everybody pitching in this year.
Springer's been good, but really, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the lineup has not been that great. The bottom of the lineup has been just tremendous. And Springer.
4 Vancouver Canadians named to Major League Baseball Pipeline's Northwest All-Star team. Third baseman Cutter Coffey, as well as pitchers Gage Stanifer, Fernando Perez, and Shea Yeager. All the pitchers were promoted. There was some healthy competition at some of the other positions that kept Arjun Namala, Sean Keys, and others off the team. See the Jays Stars of tomorrow, next season at the Nat, home opener April 7th. Tickets 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. BC Lions, and as we mentioned yesterday, some new life in the CFL West after that win over Ottawa and the Winnipeg and Edmonton losses on the weekend. They face Calgary Friday at McMahon. Winnipeg is in Ottawa on Saturday. But here's the thing. The Bombers could well be without star quarterback Zach Collaros again and going forward.
I mean, it looks like they will be. I mean, it don't look certain.
He practiced in full gear yesterday after missing the game in Hamilton, but he did not take the first team reps. You caught this. I missed this. You were telling me guys on the CFL panel were encouraging him to retire, that it's just been too many concussions, Zach Collaros. You don't need this anymore.
Yes, which is pretty amazing. The partnership with the TSN and CFL is pretty strong. And for them to be that strong about, I'm not going to call him the Tom Brady of the CFL because his
he's
career,
not anything close to that, but he's been a very, very good player.
Very good player on a very good team, an almost dynastic team in Winnipeg.
Yeah. They don't blow one of these Grey Cups. They're easily a dynasty. Yeah, for sure.
So those were strong words, and it looks like he will not heed them. Looks like he's going to try to come back, but I would doubt if it's in the next 2 weeks.
Now, in the early part of this Winnipeg run, when Collaros missed games, and he is 37 now, in came Chris Streveler. It was a more run-based offense, but the beat went on because they were just so good in the ground game, so good on defense with those extraordinary pass rushers and the lockdown secondary. Well, Streveler hasn't been as good since returning from the NFL, and really, I'm not sure the team at large is as good.
No.
I said as recently as last week, I just wholly expect Winnipeg to crank it up here in the final third. But they're 6-7, just like BC. And it sounds like Ottawa's going to get their starting quarterback, Drew Brown, back for this game on the weekend.
You're right that they've got new life. It just makes me more angry for them.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is,
like the woulda, coulda, shouldas on the Lions sked.
For sure. But
one more win.
But the fact of the matter is, you got 5 games left. You're tied with a record. Winnipeg, they own the tiebreaker. They've beat you twice this year. That ain't changing. But a win versus the Stamps, and that puts third place very much in play. In fact, that even puts second place in play a little bit with another head-to-head left against Calgary here at BC Place.
It's so rare to sweep a team, especially in short order. But, I mean, they theoretically have some fate in their own hands. If they take both of these games versus Calgary, the Lions, a home playoff date is back on the table.
Yeah.
It's a big ask, but it's there. They're allowed to do it.
Yeah, and like normally you would look at the Bombers' schedule and say, oh, okay, there should be some wins there. I mean, especially at home where, they sell the joint out each and every night. But they're home to Hamilton after this weekend. They're into Edmonton. They're home to Saskatchewan. They're home to Montreal. Like, with Zach Collaros healthy and operating the controls, there's a number of wins on this table for Winnipeg. With Zach Collaros on the sidelines, and we'll see how long that lasts, who knows how many wins are still on the table here for Mike O'Shea's team. Mm-hmm. Lions also announcing their 5th annual Orange Shirt Day game. That's September 26th at BC Place versus the Argos. That's the first of 3 straight home games for BC, so got to take advantage of those. World Athletics Championships, where Kelowna's Jerome Blake, as well as Andre DeGrasse and Aaron Brown, are all through to the semis in the 200 meters. Marco Arop looking to defend his world title in the 800 meters. He is through to the finals. A record 4 Canadians competed in the semis of the 800 meters. So there you go. We're a middle distance running and hammer throw country now.
Throwing anything.
And we still have some sprinters. And we have some decathletes too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do have a lot of decathletes.
Results of the Redwoods Golf Course poll question from Tuesday. We asked you, is JT Miller captain's material? Yes or no? The people said...
People said yes.
People said no.
Oh, did they?
This is one of those Quebec referendum Bush Gore 51.4.
Hanging chads?
Yeah, hanging chads. 51.4 said no. Mike, you can't be a captain when you can't control your own emotions. Very brilliant simplicity there, Mike.
Super simple. Super right.
Will says yes for a very short term to light a fire under a team's ass. Yes, long term it's probably not going to pan out very well, but lots of teams make short term moves, so I can't hate this one. Hey, fair enough. Matt says for the right team, sure. Jay, his mannerisms resonate with old school guys like Drury, the ones who see verbal berating as leadership, the ones who prioritize mental health as weakness, the ones who equate points with competency. I'm sure he will be great initially, but true colors tend to reveal themselves. And Petrus, captain material for getting you ready to storm through Afghanistan, not captain material for effort on 2/3 of the ice surface. Okay.
Very specific circumstances.
Yeah. I'm not sure he'd be the same guy if he's in a Blackhawk about to get dropped in the desert of Afghanistan. Something tells me that he may not be the same guy you see in the room. Errors and omissions. Cam Robinson called you Jeff.
I'm not Jeff.
He said it after the hit, too. He's like, damn. He's like, I called Blake Jeff, didn't I? Yeah. It's preseason for Cam, too.
Yep.
And, my camera went dark again.
Too hot. Too hot to handle.
Either the camera or the operator or both really hating on me this week.
Yerke getting ahead of things for tomorrow, by the
why.
way. We talked about maybe Blackman getting a good MRI, despite it looking bad. He was pointing out Keith Ballard got slew-footed by Milan Mahalik way back when. And it looked absolutely horrific.
Keith was a little dramatic, like
he still missed 3 to 4 weeks, but it ended up being okay. And that's what I'm saying with if it's a 3 to 4 weeker for Blackman, that's okay. He'd be ready for the playoffs.
Things I always wonder, if Ballard doesn't suffer that concussion, 5 games into his Canucks tenure, game against LA, if I'm not mistaken, home game against LA. Does Keith Ballard have a better season? Is Keith Ballard more trusted by Alain Vigneault? Are the Canucks lifting a Stanley Cup because Keith Ballard actually was a second-pair defenseman they thought they were getting?
I'm going to guess no. I think AV made up his mind.
You have no vision. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time and connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, especially YouTube. Blake would really like if you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And wherever you get your podcasts, follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.